Hello, it's Renee with Reset with Renee. Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed yesterday's reading. Today's reading or installation, if you will, is from another favorite resource of mine that I read this year, Discovering the Inner Mother by Bethany Webster. The subtitle is A Guide to Healing the Mother Wound and Claiming Your Personal Power. So I'm going to read a couple little snippets starting on page 12, and I'm sure I'll have some comments. I'll be curious to see what your comments are. Okay, so to start off, there's a lot of talk these days about feminism and being an awakened, conscious woman. But the reality is that we cannot be truly empowered if we have not yet addressed within us the very places that have felt banished and in exile from the feminine. Our first and most formative encounter with female power was with our mothers. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit to the next page. Patriarchy as the root cause of the mother wound is the section I'm starting from. So here's the paragraph. Patriarchy gives rise to the mother wound. In male-dominated cultures, women are considered to think of themselves as less than, not deserving, or worthy. This feeling of less than has been internalized and passed down through countless generations of women. The corrosive principles of patriarchy that give rise to the mother wound include, there's quite the extensive list on page 13. I'm just going to share some that resonated with me, the ones that resonated most strongly. So there are others if you want to check it out in the book. Normalizing the suppression of feelings, viewing the expression of feelings as bad or weak, feeling shame for having needs, feeling shame for resting or slowing down, needing to produce to feel valued, sense of scarcity of money, time, energy, or love, objectification, not seeing people as people, obedience and compliance are demanded, romanticizing or eroticizing the dynamics of domination and submission. That one makes me chuckle. Reminds me of being a Gen X kid and all of us mothers and daughters watching soap operas together. That's not some good imprinting for relationship development. Considering men as the default human being, they're prioritized. I think I mentioned that. So those are a few that kind of jumped out at me. And then the next page, motherhood and the mother wound. Historically, patriarchal cultures have not only treated motherhood as a mandate for women, they've also made it oppressive, holding mothers to unreasonable standards. And there's several bullet points here. But as a result of these limiting beliefs and superhuman standards, women forgo their dreams, bottle up their desires, and suppress their needs in favor of meeting the cultural ideal of what womanhood should be. This pressure is suffocating for most women, engendering rage, depression, anxiety, and overall emotional pain, which when not addressed, as is often the case in patriarchal cultures, is then unconsciously passed on to daughters through subtle or even aggressive forms of emotional abandonment, manipulation, or rejection. Children interpret these moments of maternal abandonment, rejection, or manipulation as, quote, there is something wrong with me. I'm responsible for my mother's pain, or I can't make my mother happy, or I can make my mother happy if I'm a good girl. This makes sense when one considers the limited cognitive development of a child who sees herself as the cause of all things. Left unaddressed, these unconscious and untrue beliefs at the very core of the mother wound can negatively affect every area of our lives. I'm turning the page to another section. While the generational stereotypes have changed across the decades during our human life, the underlying message of unrelenting criticism has been the same. In the 50s, mothers were too put together. In the 70s, mothers were too lax. In the 80s, too ambitious. In the 90s, it was all about the participation trophies. And in the zeros, it was the tiger moms. This stereotype of, quote, all mothers should be loving all the time, end quote, strips women of their full humanity. Because women are not given permission to be full human beings, society feels justified in not providing full respect, support, and resources to mothers. Jumping ahead. And this book, I want to clarify if you've not read it, is not at all about mom bashing. But it's an interesting read. Of course, most mothers want what is best for their daughters. However, if a mother has not dealt with her own pain or come to terms with the sacrifices she has had to make, then her support for her daughter may be laced with messages that subtly instill shame, guilt, or obligation. Jumping ahead to the next page, and this will be the last little snippet I read. Page 17. The daughter doesn't want to risk losing her mother's love and approval. So internalizing these limiting unconscious beliefs is a form of loyalty and emotional survival. It may feel dangerous for the daughter to actualize her full potential because this may mean risking some form of rejection by her mother, and children are dependent upon their caretakers for safety and protection. The daughter may unconsciously sense that her full empowerment may trigger her mother's sadness or rage at having had to give up parts of herself in her own life. Her compassion for her mother, a desire to please her, and a fear of conflict may cause her to convince herself that it's safer to shrink and remain small. Hence, daughters grow up in patriarchal cultures, having to choose between being empowered and being loved. So to me, this speaks to the generational legacy of socialization that mothers and women have felt responsible for making sure their children step in line with the conditioning of the society. And there's burdens and wounds that come with that, because clearly our societal standards and conditioning are not 100% healthy all the time. There's a lot of room for improvement. And so a lot of the clients that I work with are adults who are trying to recover from missteps in their development. And then, of course, over time you have adult layers of things that have happened. So it's kind of like you go back and reclaim what you lost along the way. You release the conditioning that wasn't helpful to you then or now, and you begin this process of inner reparenting to the parts of you that have been exiled by you, or parts of you, or by other people, for instance, by your mother, perhaps. And I have definitely seen in my work with clients, and even reflecting on my own family tree, where there is the impact of the mother wound. And so it is a generational thing that we can begin to cycle break. And if you don't know about this and how subtle it can be, what the roots are, you can just feel really stuck and disempowered, which is the opposite of what we're shooting for International Women's Day. So I'm sure I have some other thoughts. It's spring, I have allergies, I'm tired, but I did want to share this reading with you here. Let me know your thoughts. And how are you, I guess my question would be, how are you empowering yourself if you are a woman in whatever role you inhabit? I hope you have a great day. Thanks for being here. Reach out to reset.